Alright, so today we're going to be talking about this one simple trick that'll increase your performance. I was going to say performance. What did you think I was going to say? But anyways, welcome back everybody. I just wanted to make a really quick tutorial about CoronaUvwRandomizer tool, and I use it all the time in my production and how I work. A lot of the times, like if you're using tools such as Force Pack or Rail Clone, Floor Generator, or you're just arraying a bunch of furniture or like different pieces around your model, a lot of times you'll kind of get this repetitive effect with your maps. And so what I like to use is Corona's UVW'Randomizer. It's all the way down on the bottom, so it's kind of like a little bit of a hidden guy. So you may or may not know about this, and I just wanted to put together, just kind of a quick little how-to tutorial, like just in case somebody out there was curious about this and they've never kind of messed around with it, or maybe they just maybe you just don't know about it. And so this is kind of a secret weapon of mine that I like to use, especially trying to work really fast. Sometimes you just can't UV unwrap everything as fast as possible. So I just kind of set up the scene really quickly. We're just gonna go through a couple of different scenarios of what I use the UVW'Randomizer for. So in this case, I'm just taking this plane here that we just have it separated out 4x4. I've added a edit poly on top of it, and what I've done is just separated out the vertices over here. So now each of these are its own element. I'm just doing this just to show, just like quickly, simple way of demonstrating the power of the CoronaUvwRandomizer here. And so let's go ahead and let's just kind of move some stuff around here. And so let's just go ahead and get some rendering going here. So we have our gray, just kind of like a gray material here. And I'm just gonna go ahead and let's just apply the tiles here by itself. And so this is the result that we're gonna get, right? And so for the UV randomizer here, we have a bunch of different settings that are super cool. And so by default, it's checked off to randomize by instance. And so what this will allow us to do is every single instance of an object, it'll apply a different randomization depending on what settings you have in here. We can go deeper into that. We can change it by object IDs and material IDs, even like the face material IDs, which is pretty dope. But in this case, the mesh element is what we're going to be working with right now. And you could have all of these on, you could have one on, you could have, just like 2 or 3 on, whatever you're trying to do. And as well as, like you have different seeds as well, so you can change the randomization, and we'll kind of go through that quickly as well. Just trying to keep this at a high level. So I'm going to go ahead and add in our UV randomizer now into our diffuse. And you can see like it didn't do anything. I didn't change anything, and that's to be expected because we haven't set any of our parameters yet. And so these parameters here are going to reflect what is your scene units. So my scene units are in inches. If you're in millimeters or centimeters, these are what these values are going to indicate. So I'm going to put like a -24, and that's going to indicate that 24 inches. And you can see here that we're already starting to get some random results going on. And so it's going from -24 to 0, and it's randomizing the texture in the U direction. And so now if I put this to 24, so now it's going to randomize all the way from -24 all the way to +24, and that's just in the U direction. And then we can do that as well in the V, and then now we get super randomized results based on our elements here. So each one of these is its own separate element, and it's being randomized by our faces, basically, because we've separated out the vertices to create our own separate elements. And so we could do that with offsets, just in the U and V, but we could also do that with our rotations, which is another really super interesting, super powerful, ability to be able to just drop in real quick. You have like this texture file. Maybe it needs to be, like this kind of like erratic pattern, and then you can just do that really quickly. And then you could set the rotations up, either like sometimes, going from 0 to 360, or maybe go negative 360 to 360. You can do whatever values you want, negative 180 or 0. And so with that, that's just kind of like a basic primer for what the UVW'Randomizer does. And in the real world, you're gonna have your color map, you're gonna have your reflection map, you're gonna bump map. And what's really cool about this is let's just delete this guy here. I can copy this and let's just drag that out. And I can make a copy of this, and now I can input, like, let's say this is a reflection map, and we can add that into our reflect. And so now if we where do we go here? Just delete that. So our reflection map here will respect the same coordinates as our color map, and so we'll just have to copy this over for all of our different data maps, for reflection gloss, bump map, and they'll all be like the same offsets. And then we can control that as well. Like if you want to change the offset a little bit, if it's not kind of like working, so we can change our seed value here, and you can start to see now that there's a difference in the pattern here between our color map and where our reflections lie. And so like that's just kind of proving that these two are respecting the same values based off the seed value here. So hopefully that was super simple to kind of grasp, just kind of like the basics of the UV randomizer. And so let's go ahead and start playing around with some real world scenarios here. So we have a couple of different like real world scenarios here going on, and so in the first case, let's jump into this flooring that I made. In a lot of cases, you'll always be asked to like, make this flooring terrazzo, right? And no matter what, you can never have enough of a sample map of terrazzo. You'll always get a repetitive repetitive pattern as much as you try. So like in this case, this material looks actually pretty good. I've spent quite a bit of time trying to make it as seamless as possible. But again, you'll always notice like a couple of different areas here where you get some repeated areas in the actual texture itself. And so what I've done is I've taken this flooring itself, and I've made the tiles the approximate size of the texture file itself. And so let's just go ahead and find our material here. And so what I've done is just simply, it's just super simple material. I just like plugged in this texture file into the diffuse, and this is approximately what we're gonna get, right? So if we go ahead and let's just go and let's go into our IR once again, and we can kind of see, this is approximately the results that we're getting. It looks pretty good overall. But let's go ahead and let's just add a UVW'Randomizer onto this guy. And what we can do is, instead of doing like offsets, what we can do is do a rotation randomization. Let's just set this from 0 to 360, and we we can, in this instance, allow it to randomize fully 0 to 360. So it's going to pick arbitrary values throughout the steps of 0 to 360. But what we can do is also do 90-degree steps. So this way, it's only rotating the texture file by 90 degrees. And so we start to get like a little bit more of like a randomization. We're not like we're not getting as many of those like corner pinches, like where we're kind of like mirroring the texture file itself. And so like we kind of get like a couple different areas here that we get repeating. But overall, like in most scenes, you're not going to have such a vast straight on view of your Terrazzo here. And so the UVRandomizer kind of really helps or remove that little bit of like repetitive nature of the texture file. And so next, let's just take like a simple wall tile that we have here, and let's just go ahead and find our material here. So this is already kind of set up as a UVW'Randomizer, and so this is using RailClone. And let's just go ahead and so like we can kind of see like in the viewport here. So like the viewport, we don't get the results of the UVRandomizer, and so you can kind of see like this is like, this is boring, this is bad, it's very repetitive. And let's just go ahead and let's just plug this guy in kind of like this, and let's just go ahead and let's get our rendering going here. And so like this is a really good example that we see here. Like we're just kind of like plugging in our material straight from our tile. And there's obviously several different ways we can adjust for this, but I find using the UV randomizer to be a really simple and quick solution. And again, so in this case, I'm just kind of like flipping the rotation from 0 to 180. So I'm just literally just kind of like flip-flopping them, and then I'm setting the step to 180 as well. And so let's just go ahead and plug that in. And so now we start to get a little bit more of like a randomization that's not so linear, and you get something a little bit more interesting, and just like a quick like little 5-minute or 5-second setup of the UVW randomizer. And again, so I'm using it by instance and by mesh element, and it's super fast, super simple. And then before you saw like I had this in the bump just to kind of give like a little bit of variation in the reflection, but like honestly, like it's probably not noticeable. And so let's take a look at this wood wall. So a lot of times, like if you have like a repetitive element like this wood wall, let's just kind of like zoom in here. So like most of the time, it might not be as obvious if you have like a larger surface, especially with smaller elements like this. But we can kind of see like every single one of these like kind of like wooden dowels has a little bit of a randomization to it. If I was to, let's just go ahead and let's just take this randomization out. We have like the same, we can get like the same pattern, and you get like these stripes going all the way across. You get like the same like little dimples from that wood texture there that's going all the way across. If you just go ahead and add in the UVW randomizer, you can kind of see like we lose that striation, we lose that repetitiveness of the material. And again, super simple, super easy. And again, we're just kind of like using mesh by element and by instance, because we're arraying this with RailClone, it's instancing it. And so mesh by element really probably isn't that important in this, but by instance is fine. And so what I'm doing is just offsetting it again by 2 feet in either direction to give like the texture enough randomization playroom to kind of offset from itself. And so now let's go ahead and let's just take like this chair here, and let's just make a couple of different iterations. So a lot of times you're populating your scene, and you have like this really awesome this really awesome chair in your scene, but they all look the same, right? And because they're all using the same UVs, they're all using the same materials, right? And so let's go ahead and add a UV randomizer onto this guy, and let's go by instance again. So this is automatically again by default, and then let's just set this to -24, 24, and then -24 and 24 again on the UV. And then you can kind of start to see there's like a little bit more of a randomization going on that kind of just like helps, you know, keep your objects a little bit more unique. Let's just take like this table for instance, and let's just go ahead. So like we have like all these, you know, all these beautiful tables. You have like this restaurant, and you're like, but you know, but Andrew, I could just kind of like rotate them and, you know, do that myself, right? Like yeah, go ahead. Go ahead and rotate all of your tables one by one, and you know, yes, there's scripts and there's plugins that you can kind of like rotate manually, but I find, you know, just kind of like adding in this UV randomizer here way easier. So again, let's just go by instance, and then let's just 360 it here, and so now we're automatically randomizing our material here. And so we can also do offsets, -24, -24, and so we can kind of like get a little bit more of a variation going on in our materials. And so it just kind of adds a little bit of uniqueness. It just kind of adds like just a little extra level in your renderings. And so yeah, that's pretty much it as far as, you know, kind of what the UVW'Randomizer does. Hopefully that helped somebody out there kind of like understand it, or maybe become a little bit more useful as a tool in their process, and add it to their secret sauce. And yeah, see you guys next time.